Welcome to Bonehead. I'm not going to say my name.
Why won't he say his
But
name?
I'll make you say my name.
Say my name, say my name.
You having an identity crisis? You're still an asshole.
His name is now Gideon Sledge. Can you redo his title card to Gideon Sledge?
She already put me third. I used to be first.
I'm sorry.
Who's first?
It goes a different order every episode.
It does?
It didn't used to.
It has since day one.
It has not.
Has
I didn't
it?
watch the show.
I watched the show like an MF.
Gideon's mad as hell.
I don't know. See, told you.
Hey,
Regardless.
isn't it a doctor show?
I don't know. Balthazar, do you know if it's the doctor's show? Oh my God!
Balthazar
Why?
just makes me think of
Why
Vicious.
Why can't I do a podcast with a guy named Balthazar
Balthazar.
and a guy named Gideon? That would be way cooler.
I don't know,
Gideon's
Gabrielle.
Yeah, he does look like Gabrielle Union.
Well, thanks. Actually, that's
Or
one of the best.
Gabrielle Anwar? That an actress?
Yeah, from Burn Notice. Yeah. Good job.
Oh, I've got
And
Bruce
then,
Campbell
and
on the
again,
brain.
that movie where the lady jumps off the
The
with the horse.
Oh, wild
She's the-
hearts can't be
Yeah,
eaten.
she's the girl that jumps.
Yeah.
Unlike this show, which jumps a shark.
Anyway,
day
back
one.
to Balthazar. I think of
Balthazar and
Vicious.
Gideon.
I think of Vicious because that's the name of the dog off camera.
Oh,
You never
that's
see
true.
it.
That's true.
Poor Balthazar.
How did we get him in a tux?
Oh, I'm watching. So
Go out and watch Vicious, by the way.
I'm watching Planet Earth 2 on
The
Netflix.
Sequel.
Yeah, on
It's
Netflix.
not to be confused with Earth 2.
Narrated by Richard Attenborough.
Richard Attenborough. Sir. Richard
Sir.
Attenborough.
You know that horse that's white and black, has stripes?
That was in that video?
That's zebra. You're talking about a zebra,
What do you call it?
or is it a zebra?
A zebra.
You bastard.
Covered in
That is-
aluminium.
That is not how you pronounce it.
Covered in
Zebra. Not
covered in-
zebra.
And it is a jaguar.
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 Have you ever watched Top Gear?
No. Yes, you made
The
me
British
watch it one
version.
time. Yes, one time.
Jaguar. There was and the great and here's another thing.
Well,
It's like a totally different
the song
language.
Jaguar ends with Jaguar.
Yeah. If you watch the Great British Bake Off or whatever, it's like a whole new language for certain words that they pronounce.
Huh.
What's another one? It's not Cinnamon, but it's
Is that a new Pokemon? Cinnamon. He
Zebra.
chokes people.
So Zebra threw you for a loop.
Zebra. I couldn't.
That's Deborah's third cousin.
Every time he said it, I'm like, it's zebra. And then I'm out of the documentary.
You know, I mean,
I hope they're late line.
I mean, not,
I hold 93-year-old Sir Richard Burton.
not Sir Richard. Now,
Screw
in
him.
all
He sent
fairness-
dinosaurs out on us.
in all,
Bastard. And he also pretended to be Santa Claus.
What the hell? What are we
in all
gonna do a show?
fairness, it is technically spelled zebra. I mean, it's not Z. There's not two E's.
Shut the hell up, Doctor.
He's speaking the Queen's. So. What by
When
that?
did it become the Queen's? Did the king die and it was like, oh, we don't have a king
Yes.
anymore? It's got to be the Queen's English now.
Pretty much. So this episode is about podcasts.
Is it?
Is it?
It hasn't been so far.
Haley's over here flipping me
I
off.
thought it was
telling me
about
we're
our
doing it
favorite
for-
muffins.
Oh, is there a podcast about muffins?
I like my muffin moist.
You probably like banana butt.
Banana butt.
banana butts.
That's right, Joe.
Banana,
Joe-
banana,
They have an entirely different type
Banana,
of
banana
fruit flies.
butt will be next summer's hit song. I got me a banana butt. Banana butt.
They attract a different type of banana fly.
Banana butt, banana butt.
He's only going to get mad when this gets sampled and becomes a hit and he doesn't get a check.
Yeah.
Look at the fatty dance. Banana butt.
Royalties.
Butt, chicken butt. I got a banana butt.
So
Jay-Z turned me down.
This episode's about
As did every woman ever.
this episode's about podcasts.
I know,
huh?
no, Jay-Z couldn't get laid.
I wasn't talking about Jay-Z. But sure.
Yeah, we're talking about podcasts. So
Podcast.
we've had people request different topics. This wasn't one of them.
Well, no, this actually was. Some people said we should probably talk about some other podcasts. What do we like? So it was. This did come from.
And
a
we
fan.
do get requests, and I want to give a shout out to Carrie Birchfield, who's hopefully watching or listening right now, who had a list the other day of things, and I said, that's great. Just go ahead or tweet us or Facebook us or do something with that. Well,
we do.
No, go ahead.
We seriously do want that.
We do want that. So
Pay for an ad in the penny saver.
Or just save a
a
penny.
penny
and give
saved
it
is
to
a penny lost. That didn't make no sense.
No, it didn't.
No.
Haley's distracting me with that camera over there. We have 14 cameras
We've
up.
had more camera. How does he get distracted by a camera now?
I don't know.
This is
There's
only
shout-
3. We've had more than 3.
You often have more than 3.
Anyway, podcasts. Casts that are potted.
So
Pod people.
when this show got started, I'm not going through the whole story. However,
It was the best of times.
It was the worst
the
of times.
worst of times.
and if you ever
Somebody came to Joe and said, "Why aren't you doing a podcast?" And then he sucked me into it.
that's not true. You'd mentioned it a year or two beforehand.
Yeah, that's true.
And Christy had mentioned it before too.
You bastards, don't team up on
Don't
me.
cloud this with
I
facts.
agree that the fire was stoked by a room full of people asking me about my podcast. that
I'm the
didn't
Fox
exist.
News of this cast.
You sure as shit are.
Trump is wonderful.
Did you die a little inside?
Little bit.
A little bit.
The Trumpty dance is your chance to do the Trumpty.
Oh,
Yeah. Anyway, back to it. So. Our first
This
episode,
Stormy.
if you have tuned in from the first episode, we originally said, hey, 3 fat white guy, well, 1 fat white guy and 2, I don't, what are you, James?
No, I'm fat. There's no reason to sugarcoat this.
Well, there
Oh
could
my
be.
God!
Can we
sugarcoat it and then put some butter
Oh.
and maybe some chocolate? Go ahead and make some brownies with this.
coming up next episode, watch as Joe licks sugar out of James's belly button.
I thought you were going to go someplace different.
I really didn't want to go that dark.
I was. You should watch, James. Oh.
What erstwhile crevasses will he probe? Erstwhile
We have
crevasses?
not
Could that
yet-
be the name of this episode?
We have not yet broached the subject of this episode.
With my tongue.
Tongue broaching. The Joe Lewis story.
Tasty polyps. So, moving right along. We've often made the joke that the world needed another podcast with 3 white guys talking about pop culture like it needed, bitching about pop culture like it needed a hole in the head. However, I often say that we're different than a lot of people. We do a certain amount of analyzing, we do a certain amount of interviewing, but we always try to keep it lighthearted and funny.
Well, and we bounce around a lot.
And we bounce around and we don't
we're
just
gonna
do
talk
one
about
topic.
some, or at least I'm going to talk about some that are very specific. And that's great.
And we're going to talk about the best comedy of all time, Old Yeller. I don't know why I just said that again. What the man?
I want to scream STFU at you for some reason. Why do I want to do that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
Anyway. So but we also do admire some other podcast people.
We do.
So we wanted to give some shout outs.
I actually probably listen to the least amount of podcasts. Is that that probably accurate? Chad probably listens to the most.
Chad definitely listens to the most.
Nobody even comes close to Chad. It's not like he even has a family or anything. He's just like, shut up, Haley! Not that Haley. His daughter, Haley. He's listening to a podcast.
He named her after Eminem.
I'm listening to this podcast. I don't even know what he listens to.
No,
but
my car.
You drive,
Run
right?
it
Yeah,
over.
my job, my career
Is his car.
requires me to
His
travel
law.
a lot. So, and I'm not a big music person. I'm not a big.
No.
I don't
And
listen.
he's on the run from the law a lot too, so
Yeah.
it's a lot of car time.
But
Yeah.
I don't listen to a lot of music. So what I do, I like talk. I like talk radio, and then podcast came
That
along.
explains your white anger.
And then podcast came along, and there's several different podcasts out there over a variety of topics, and some of them are really, really great.
That
Not this
emphasizes
one.
white anger.
Yeah, not this one.
But this one's great.
This one's
we
good.
need fans.
This one, it could be worse.
It could be worse.
Anyway, back to
And well, the great thing about us is where we do jump around. If you don't like the topic, wait 20 minutes. We'll bounce around.
yeah.
And it's taking us 15 minutes to get to the podcast part
Yeah.
of this one anyway.
So
So, back to who wants to start first? Well, before we start anything, if you're a fan of podcasts and you're a fan of movies and you're a fan of Scarefest or horror films, I will tell you to go out and visit our friend Mick Strawn's podcast.
The Dream Warrior Review.
The Dream Warrior
Did you just
Review.
say Dweem Warrior?
Mileage.
I battled a speech impediment for several years of my youth. Thank you for mocking me, you people.
You say your youth?
You ableist piece of crap.
You're very welcome, ugly Barbara Walters.
Ugly Bubba?
Then you call me Bubble Boy?
I got so excited about calling him ugly Barbara Walters and I couldn't get out. But anyway.
Bubble Boy's a terrible
So yeah,
movie.
go out and watch. It's
Dream Warrior Review.
Yeah. So that's first of all. As far as podcasts I listen to, you guys go ahead and get started, and then I'll.
You want to go? You listen to more.
Okay, so
which one do you like?
I like several. I'm going to focus on. I'm going to focus on two. The first one I'm going to mention is called "You Must Remember This."
A kiss is just a kiss.
Gene Simmons.
It's hosted by Karina Longsworth, and what it is it focuses on the history of Hollywood in the 21st century, 20th century, in its first century. And she does seasons, and those seasons cover one topic. And sometimes it's a 12-episode topic, sometimes it's a 3, sometimes it's 8. It depends on how much material she has.
Excuse me.
And she goes really in-depth into about the history. Some of the best ones that I love, she did a 9 or 10-parter on the Manson murders, and went into the utmost detail over every single and not only did she focus on Charles Manson, she focused on people associated with him in Hollywood,
like Brian
Wilson.
Brian Wilson, right? Beach Boys,
right? And then also she did an amazing series about the history of MGM, and went really in depth about stuff that I didn't even know. And I'm not going to spoil it for people who will go out there. I want you to go out there and listen to this.
Is it similar to, and I don't know if you've ever seen this, and obviously there's more to update, but did anybody ever watch the Patrick Stewart narrated A History of MGM that TNT aired?
I've read a couple of books, one in particular, biography about Louis B.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much I know as opposed to Chad knowing from this.
I just remember that. I remember when TNT did it, it was for, I don't know, their 100th anniversary, so it's now been quite a while ago.
Yeah. So, really fascinating. And not only that, she pulls in guest star, because what she does is when she's talking about them, sometimes she'll do voice actors to come in and do the parts. It's very rare, but she does do it, and she does a lot of the voices herself. The one criticism I will give her is she tries to do a Marilyn Monroe, and it's awful. But she can get past that because of the material.
Is it worse?
Why would she do voices anyway?
Well, it's kind of
that's one of my. A lot of the documentaries and stuff, I always hate the reenactments.
It's really interesting because she did one about Howard Hughes, and again, my experience. What I knew from Howard Hughes, I just knew bits and pieces. Like I watched The Aviator, and I thought that I didn't realize how much of a jackass this man was. But
he was born and raised rich.
He was born and raised rich.
Not nouveau riche.
But like for example, she just finished a 6-parter about Bela Lugosi and Boris Karloff, which I'm waiting to listen to because I want to sit down and listen to all 6 parts. But they're an hour and a half long, so I'm going to wait till I'm on the road. But like Ryan Johnson, did the voice of I think
the director Ryan Johnson is you're talking about.
I believe he either did Roger Corman or Ed Wood.
Really?
Yeah. So it's a really in-depth podcast, and if you love movies, if you love history, it's worth listening to.
So she doesn't do one every week, though.
No. Well, yes. Right now she's on a hiatus because she's building up research for the next one. But when they do get released, it's one every week.
Is this her full-time job?
As far as I know, I don't know much about her.
So who hosts? I mean, and I'm asking you these questions. I probably should ask you these questions off air. It's like, how's she making money? Because here at Bonehead,
advertising,
we'd like a little bit of this.
And she's on the Panaplay network, and she does she gets advertising.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
But yeah, I mean,
I never liked.
If you haven't heard of it, please listen to it. It's really fascinating.
Well, I was about to say, and we do have some fans that are interested in things like the Manson murders and stuff like that. So it sounds like
Miranda.
It sounds like it covers a lot of ground.
It does.
I mean, as far as
I want to listen to the Boris and
it's brand new. It's 6 parts. and I'm waiting to listen to it. It starts from the beginning of their careers, and the last episode deals with Bella with Ed Wood, and how Boris ended up with Roger Corman.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's I'm dying to listen to it, but I won't listen to it until I can listen to all 6 pieces.
I know the fictional, and I know half-assed about the other one.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And she did the one before this. The only one I never liked that she did is one where she tried to tie in Jane Fonda with another actress, and I'm blanking on her name, and I apologize, but
Haley.
That one wasn't that.
Was it Haley Mills?
No, it was
It was a trap.
She did.
You can walk over.
She played Joan of Arc.
Haley is Joan of Arc.
But before that, she did a 9-part on Dead Blondes, and each episode was about the life and career of a blonde actress in Hollywood, and most of them ended tragically.
Oh, is that like
Jane Mansfield?
Jane Mansfield. Yeah.
And then she did some obscure ones like Carol Landis, who was a really fascinating episode. Go listen to it. I didn't know who she was. She actually the movie that made Raquel Welch really famous, The Cave.
Oh, yeah.
1 million BC.
She was in the original.
Right?
Yes, and she was in the original. And she had an affair with the guy who played the original Dr. Dolittle.
Oh,
Rex Harrison?
Rex Harrison.
Yeah, it's
Who's
really
basically Stewie's voice.
Yeah,
If you're a Family Guy fan, he's ripping off.
I'm not going
to.
He flat out says that's his ode to, and I love Rex Harrison. I love the Family Guy where they do the entire episode.
I'm not going to eat up this whole podcast talking about You Must Remember
Why?
This.
You've done it before.
But go out.
Yeah,
and listen.
why don't you tell us about 13 Ghosts of Scooby Doo again? God,
go out and listen to it. It's really well done. All right,
Who's
James.
next?
I'll go next.
Of course you will.
Well, you said you didn't have a lot. All right,
I have some. I don't
that's
have a lot to offer. I'm a good father, James.
That's not what Quentin said. Anyway.
Now you can hurt me other ways, but take it easy on that one.
All right, I told Joe about this one earlier because when I thought about, I want to find something I'm really fascinated by because I listen to some podcasts, not as much as you, and I jump around a lot because I listen to whatever catches me
Jump
at the time.
around. Jump up, jump down, and jump down.
I don't know.
Jump.
Get down. Anyway,
I don't. It's hard to get up.
I found one. I told Joe about this, and I was going to
Had that problem.
And I originally thought
I said just get up.
You said hard to. You said
get up with to get down.
You said it's hard to get up.
Shake it around.
Yeah.
All right. I told Joe about this because I wanted to listen to some podcasts.
Yes.
And I wanted to listen to one. I'm like, surely there has to be one. Can't run for too many episodes. Linked to one of my all-time favorite franchises, which is Indiana Jones.
Oh shit! I thought he was going to say Harry Potter.
No, there are tons of those too, though. But here's the story behind
favorite
this.
franchise, The Expendables.
Favorite franchise, the
every one of us.
His favorite franchise is McDonald's. Look at that trivia.
That's a lie for Long John Silver. Why do they keep disappearing? Long Johns, we will totally be your spokespeople.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, I heart him. We all three love Long John Silvers.
It's not a problem.
Not a problem at all.
I mean, you don't have to actually fund the show.
It's been a while. Can somebody buy us one of those samplers?
Give us $50 in gift cards a month, and we will.
Not sampler, but a
sampler. Anyway, so there's a podcast called the IndieCast.
Yes.
And the IndieCast, I told you this earlier. Chad, how long do you think you could cover Indiana Jones? How many episodes do you think you would already have?
How many episodes do you think Bonehead could do?
5 seconds. It sucks. Done.
What?
I'm joking. I really love Indiana Jones. I love it.
If I had stupid money, I'd pay Harrison Ford to come here right now and punch you in the groin. And you'd let him do it. You'd let him do it.
And then you'd never wash your groin. Oh, that'd be no different.
That ham-fisted acting. God, it's so...
Ham-fisted right in your dick.
Anyway.
Name of the episode.
Ham-fisted in your dick.
They have done 250, I think, 7 episodes so far about this. No, what
do they do?
No, this is fascinating because I started.
Oh my God! Have you seen Indiana Jones? Yeah, it's amazing.
Awesome. Yeah.
No, I told Joe about this because I listened to a couple, and I started listening to one. I'm like, I'll listen to it for 15 minutes. I'm sure I'll get bored. No, it was fast. I started with episode 254, and they're talking. They're
just scratching the surface. Haley is slowly making her way around, Chief.
They do retrospective with John Williams. They've done some stuff like that, talking about his other music and stuff like that. But the episode that I started with, I'll just listen to a few minutes, see if I get into this. I couldn't stop. Because they have the old scripts, and they're like, well, here's a couple things about Temple of Doom that were in the original script that got cut. And once they started talking about it, I'm like, that doesn't make sense now. One being, and I told Joe this example earlier, why does Willie get on the plane? She's not being chased. They have no reason to kill Willie. In the original script, Dr. Jones was going to be still dealing with the poison and be going in and out of consciousness, and she helped Short Round drag him on the plane. She goes to get off the plane, and then they start shooting at the plane. And she ducks back on the plane, and the plane takes off.
Okay.
It's another one of those things like you and I talked about. Finish. I'm sorry.
They go through a bunch of the other stuff, like they're they were doing Temple of Doom. They were just talking about here's some little things that were kept from Temple of Doom that would make it make more sense. The mind control blood potion stuff.
How long is each episode?
But that one was an hour and 12 minutes.
Okay.
But they jump around like that. So the second part of the episode, David Koepp came out.
David Koepp, who's a screenwriter. He wrote Crystal Skull, but he also wrote Jurassic Park and the sequel, and and actually directed a really fine movie. Wrote and directed a really fine movie, a good King adaptation, in my opinion, Secret Window with Johnny Depp.
But he
a good B movie.
David Koepp has came out and announced that Mutt Williams is not going to be in the new one, and there was some back and forth they did with that. And then they literally do an entire Shia LaBeouf, we know you're not listening, but if you are, buddy, let's go ahead and talk about this. And they walk through it, and it's parts of it are hilarious because they throw out pop culture references all the time. But then they talk a little bit about the background of it. The people who do it, it's got an entire collective of people that work on it. One of them runs conventions, so they occasionally have John Rhys Davies has done an entire episode with them, talking about what's it like to actually film on location, talking about stuff like that. And so I was sitting there, when I first started, I'm like, there's no way there's 254 episodes about what effectively amounts to 3 movies and a series, Young Indiana Jones Chronicles. But it was
You mean 4 movies?
Well, 4. Yeah, sorry.
No, there's only 3 movies, Jay.
I'm aware, but...
Yeah, Temple of Doom. Anyway, remember when it used to be Temple of Doom? It used to be the week one? Remember that?
Sure.
But
it
no.
looks like Schindler's Fist now.
But...
Or is it List?
What I was going to say is... they throw out so many things if you're an Indiana Jones fan. Like, they're talking to Mutt Williams... Or they're talking about Mutt Williams, and when they're addressing Shia directly, they say lines like, listen, Shia, you may be supposed to be Jones's son, but you're acting like Belloq's kid. And I'm like, you're getting into some level of obscureness that's fun. But they do it, and it's fascinating. They talk about, here's how the musical score was going to sound, little changes to that, quickening the pace of certain things. And when they do here's what was cut from scripts, they do conversations about Indiana Jones and the Monkey King, which was going to be the 3rd movie. They pull out all this stuff.
It was going to be the 3rd, not the 4th?
3rd. Yeah, it was originally going to be before The Last Crusade. And so they go through and they find all this, and then they talk also about the video games and all of that, and how they fit into the continuity. And that's one of the things that they go back to, is that you could literally argue that Indiana Jones hasn't faced much retcon. They haven't had to go back and correct much stuff, even when you try to build in the video games, like The Emperor's Tomb, The Fate of Atlantis. All of that still follows the storyline.
So Indiana Jones are really worried about continuity.
The thing is, I want to go and listen to their episode about the ride at Disney. Or the show.
Do they do that?
Show.
I'm sure they do.
And the ride, there's a ride at Disneyland, which is the same ride as Dinosaur, FYI.
Yeah.
Wrote Dinosaur.
But no, I haven't listened to obviously all of them. I do jump around, but I wanted, since we were going to be
down every time he says it, and Haley just jumped up behind the camera.
And I also want to go. Crisscross makes you want to
shoot yourself.
Yes.
The IndieCast. And I've said this before. I don't know if I've ever said it on the podcast, but when I was a kid, I loved Star Wars. Don't send me hate mail. But when I was a kid, Star Wars wasn't a big thing. It wasn't in my house. Indiana Jones always was. My dad loved adventure movies. And so I saw
hated to leave the holler.
That's true. Dad would have been I'll help fund your adventures, Dr. Jones. Send me a good story about it.
Send me a good postcard with a story on the back.
I'll have somebody else read it to me.
By the way, his dad's is an engineer with a master's degree. So
that's true, but he doesn't read fiction. That's also. But anyway, so my dad, I saw Indiana Jones first, and so for the longest time, my franchise interest went Star Trek, Indiana Jones, and so when I was like, "There's 257 episodes so far, and they do a new one every week, and it's research, and now again they have a panel of people. I think some episodes like there's 16 different people that work on it.
Oh Lord have mercy!
But it is
there's a lot of
from the music, and what's nice about it is one of the goals it has is to give you the complete view of what was it like to do sound editing on this? What was it like, and how did this franchise?
So really similar to us in the sense that they go for production people and stuff.
They go and they've done everything. And if you are more into Star Wars, their counterpart is Rebel Radio or Rebellion Radio, which has interviewed George Lucas before, and it's the Star Wars exacting. We're going to get down to every detail. Yeah. So if you're a big Star Wars fan. That may be your opportunity there. But yeah, IndieCast, I had no idea I'd get into it that much. But I was sitting there going, oh yeah, that makes more sense. And much like we talked about today, the Big Bang Theory of, Indiana Jones could have just sat back and not done anything during Raiders and it would have worked out.
Yeah, it ruins it for you. And honestly, it never even occurred to me till I saw it on Big Bang. I guess this has been a thing around forever. Did you know about it before you saw it? Have you ever seen the episode of Big Bang Theory? Where they talk about why did Indiana do anything in Raiders? It's pointless.
I mean, it's true. Yeah.
But have you ever thought about it till somebody points it out to you?
No.
It's pointless.
I read about it online before I saw it.
The Ark would have taken care of everything anyway.
Yeah, it's true.
He just should have stayed at the house.
Yeah.
But it's about the journey. It's about the journey, Joe. Jeez.
So I've been told.
But no, so IndieCast, if you're really into and you want a big picture of how that franchise came to be what it is, as we all, or at least as I look forward to episode 5, please don't suck, please don't suck, please don't suck. But I do think so. I say that to say that that's a podcast I thought I'd listen to one episode of and be like, yeah, this is really esoteric. And then, no, it was fascinating. It was IndieCast. If you're a fan of Indiana Jones at all, check it out.
All right, I'm up, I guess. So I actually really only listen to 3 podcasts. What?
No, go ahead.
What are you laughing about?
No, go ahead.
I'm not going to do all 3 of them right
okay.
now.
No, do they have, now, you're not going to talk about your right-wing ones, are you?
No. No, we're just going to talk about the ones that are appropriate for the show. Oh, 4 actually. I've been listening, and not the, it sounds like I'm kissing Mick's ass, but I actually have been going back listening to several of them. I like the little story time with Mick. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, no, those...
He's a friend, and I just enjoy listening.
But Dream Warrior Review, well, like I said, when he was on the show, I was being honest. Listening to him talk about how he watches a movie was fascinating.
Yeah. So, I'm trying to think which one I should go with first. I'll go with Kevin Pollak's chat show. And it's on YouTube. Is it on iTunes? Is it like ours? It's a hybrid?
Yes.
Yeah, I think so.
I just watch it on YouTube.
Yeah.
Some of the earlier ones are a little bit better because he's up, and this is nothing against Kevin Pollak. I'm a huge fan. If you don't know who Kevin Pollak is, he's an actor, a comedian.
He's in A Few Good Men.
He's in A Few Good Men.
He's in
The Usual Suspects.
Yeah.
I mean, he's in a ton of things, and he's a fantastic actor, and he's a fantastic comedian, and a great at impersonating.
One of the great William Shatner impersonators.
Yeah, one of the great impressionists. So he's and he's a good interviewer. Some of the better ones, though, and the reason I think this is every once in a while there will be a new one on, and I'll go, oh, that person. But if you have 300 episodes,
you're gonna occasionally.
You're interviewing my kid. I can hear him crying. This is the first time in weeks this has happened, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyway, so to me, he's had Billy Bob on twice, and those are some of the best ones.
Yeah.
Billy Bob Thornton tells some of the best stories.
John C. McGinley was fascinating.
John C. McGinley was a really good one.
Yeah.
I like Kevin Pollak's chat show. If you get a chance, if you're a fan of filmmaking, John Landis's is good. It's 3 hours.
Hours long. Yeah.
But it's good.
It's really good.
Because John Landis is just
and it's not in parts.
It's 3 hours long. It's a 3 hours long.
Pops and popcorn kids enjoy the show.
But Billy, he got a really good story out of Billy Bob that I've heard a couple of times now about him going to Hollywood in the early 80s, working any kind of job he can find, being at a party, and a guy, he called him a Russian guy or a Slavic guy, comes over and starts giving him advice about what he should do, and he said, well, you want to be an actor? He goes, yeah, well, you're too ugly to be an actor. You have to be a character actor. If you're going to do this, you're going to have, can you write? And he goes, well, yeah, I'll write. Well, you need to write your way into the business. And the whole time it was, oh my God,
You just went blank, didn't you?
I swear to God, I just went blank on probably one of the best filmmakers of all time, who gave us probably the perfect movie.
Citizen Kane? He's not Russian.
Yeah.
And I just went blank on the perfect movie with Jack Lemmon.
The Apartment?
The Apartment.
Yeah.
Why can't I think of something like it hot?
I don't know.
Billy Wilder?
Why can't it Billy Wilder? Why couldn't I think of Billy Wilder's name?
Yeah, Billy Wilder.
Have you ever heard this story? It was Billy Wilder. He had no idea. He's a hick from Arkansas that Billy Wilder was giving him this advice.
No.
And nobody was talking to Billy Wilder. He was sitting over in the corner. He was in his 80s at this time, and it was during the 80s. His career,
Yeah.
as it does.
As it does in Hollywood.
As it does in Hollywood.
Well,
And he was just giving him advice. Well, you're too ugly to be a leading man.
Yeah.
And he's right. And nothing against Billy Bob, but he's a character actor.
No, let's face it. Nobody's knocking on our doors. Nobody's tuning into this podcast.
I mean, he's in Bad
because we're
Santa and a
sex
few
symbols.
other, and he's got a few, but I mean, he is a character actor.
Yeah.
And that's
And by the way, character actors.
those are the people I love.
Oh yeah.
Right? But it's just a great story. Kevin got it out of him. So basically, and then I heard an interview with him later. Well, how did you get this out of him? And he said, well, I just found out he liked Bud Light. And I had a 6-pack of Bud Light. Just let him smoke and drink.
Wow.
That was it.
Yeah.
So if you just talk to him, let him smoke and drink, and if you have that amount of time, which is a good thing about, I think, podcasts and these YouTube shows, is you can take the time. It's not like it's a 6-minute segment on Craig Ferguson. Why I pulled Craig Ferguson out. Why I didn't say Letterman or whatnot.
Yeah.
All those people are retired now. You know that, right?
Well, I don't watch the new fangled talkies.
Jimmy Kimmel.
When I went to color, the town went to hell. Filmmaking died when they could speak.
We used to have faces.
Anyway.
By the way, kids, if you don't know what movie that's from, look it up.
It's also directed by Billy Wilder.
Also, yeah, I was going to say Billy Wilder.
FYI.
You should hold your head in shame.
You two should. I was waiting for one of you to say it too.
I did eventually say Billy Wilder.
But it took you a minute.
I was trying to figure out what
Oh,
movie.
I'm sorry. You said Russian, and I'm like, Billy Wilder wasn't Russian. I don't know where he's going with this.
He's, I don't remember what he is. But anyway, Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. If you're into movies, check that out. I really, really encourage you to watch the John Landis, Billy Bob Thornton. And Billy Bob Thornton has some great stories about.
I go back to, because I've watched it twice now. I watched it once at a time in your office in between stuff. And then I went back and rewatched the John C. McGinley one. And
John C. McGinley was another great one.
You need to watch it. If John C. McGinley.
Just to hear his story about Sean Connery.
I'd say if you're a fan of Scrubs, because he worked with Sean Connery twice, which most people forget about. He's in Highlander 2.
Yeah.
And he's in The Rock.
Dreadful movie. Not The Rock, but Highlander 2.
And he tells a story about working with Sean Connery, and that Sean Connery, basically, you had 2 takes. And if you didn't get it done in 2 takes, Sean Connery wasn't in the refilm.
Yeah.
So you better get one good shot of Connery. Because 2 takes, and
him being miserable, they're all there in awkward positions. And
being
really,
dead, basically.
We're all here dead. You're going to do 2?
Yeah.
Right, you're going to do 2? That's it?
Yeah, it's but he also tells stories that are fascinating. And the other part I found fascinating was he tells stories about the kids dying to clear snakes for what's the Oliver Stone?
Platoon. Yeah,
Platoon. They would send
and
kids
he does
out.
a really good impersonation of Oliver Stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his relationship with Oliver Stone, all of that. Why is he in almost all
A lot of
Oliver
the early
Stone
ones,
films?
Yeah.
Kevin Pollak gets stories out of people.
Sorry, Haley was over there doing sign language.
James keeps looking at the wrong camera. You're here.
Well, no, I'm trying to.
He's wearing shades. I don't
He's
even know
looking
where he's
at
looking.
he wears his sunglasses at night, so
my eyes have been bothering me, but
your face
thanks for
is
mocking
killing us.
my.
But anyways, Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. Who's next?
I'll go. The next podcast I'm going to talk about is called The Last Podcast on the Left.
Not to be confused with The Last House on the Left.
Yeah, no, Last Podcast on the Left.
We need to get Wes Craven on the show.
Yeah, it's done by 3 gentlemen: Ben Kissel, Michael Parks, and Henry Zabrowski.
Michael Parks, the actor?
No.
Who's dead?
No.
Yep, they bring a Ouija board, little dark magic pops
Different
it
Michael
right back.
Parks. He has a hit. This Michael Parks was in radio. But Henry Zabrowski,
old-timey radio.
Henry Zabrowski is
or that crappy movie with that white guy.
He's the lead actor on the Adult Swim show Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell.
It sure is.
This is more of a true crime podcast. Their big focus is on serial killers. They do multiple parts on serial killers.
There you go, Miranda.
Yeah, I've actually mentioned it to Miranda, but they also focus on they on conspiracy topics, like chemtrails. They do a whole episode on chemtrails. Do you not know what a chemtrail is?
I know what a happy trail is.
It's this conspiracy theory that that the government is throwing chemicals in the sky to control us.
And also make you a homosexual.
Yes.
There are people that believe.
And I'm doing a very good job. I mean, I joke a lot.
We're not. I mean, they're not. You're not finding me more attractive?
No.
Curse you, Salinger. Why did I?
But
Salazar!
Again, when I listen to podcasts that deal with history or anything in true crime, I like a lot of detail, and they go into some insane detail.
And I'm fascinated by this because if you've never seen Your Pretty Faces Going to Hell, the fact that one of the people, Gary, right?
Yes, Gary.
Plays Gary on the show. The show is hilarious, and the fact that he has a podcast dedicated to true crime and is very serious about it, and is very because I watch that show and I'm like, I can't picture him being serious.
And they also do a lot of episodes on UFO sightings and paranormal activity. He is really into UFOs. Gray men. He will go off on a tangent. But my particular favorite ones are the serial killer ones because they go into such detail about this dark side of American history. There are some that are rough to listen to, in particular the Leonard Lake and Charles Ng, the two serial killers, and the Dean Corll, known as the Candy Man. Mm-hmm. They go into some detail that actually left me kind of shaken as to, but then
not stirred.
But then you hear about ones like Carl Panzram, who in the early 1900s, in the late 1800s. He's been charged and he was executed for at least 30 murders, but it's speculated that he killed up into the 200s, 300s.
I have no idea who any of these people are.
It's really fast, but the best episode that they did, in my opinion, they did a 3-parter on L. Ron Hubbard and the foundations of Scientology.
Yeah.
That man is insane.
Well, now, but extremely smart, right? He's a good. I mean, he's intelligent in a manipulating way.
Manipulating.
Well, I was going to say, I obviously I wasn't there, but I have to go by, and it's not a podcast, but you can find this video online. They asked Harlan Ellison because Harlan Ellison, when he was very young, was friends with L. Ron Hubbard, and he talks about them all hanging around in a hotel room, and he says, it's not Asimov, but it's another popular science fiction writer. L. Ron Hubbard was always stressed about money. And L. Ron Hubbard used to write, he would get a roll of butcher paper, cut it to where it would fit into his printer so he didn't have to rip the pages.
Yeah.
He would constantly type. And what he said about it was they were all sitting around, and L. Ron Hubbard goes, if my next book doesn't sell, I'm dried up, I'm washed up, what do I do? And it wasn't Asimov, but it was another popular science fiction writer.
Yeah.
Just literally said, the only way you'd be safe is if you were a religion. They're always
if you start
safe.
A religion, and that's what inspired him to.
Do you remember who the other science fiction writer is?
I'm blanking,
but I know exactly what you're all talking about because I've heard the same story. I've heard it from Harlan.
I'm blanking, but it talks about how he used to hang out with Aleister Crowley.
Yeah.
And a lot of the stuff that he used in
Aleister
Scientology.
Crowley, if you don't know who Aleister Crowley is, he was involved in making the movie Devil's Reign with William Shatner.
Or we could talk about the Church of Satan. But
that's the Church of Satan was...
Or the House of the Devil.
The Church of Satan was the people who made House of the Devil with William Shatner.
Yeah.
Well, that was actually Antoine LaVey.
I'm sorry.
Anyway.
Offshoot thereof. I'm sorry.
But no, and not only so they do talk about these horrific topics in terms of the murders, and they even do a 3-parter on 9/11. But they mix in some pretty solid humor. They take.
I know when we did our 9/11 show, I was in stitches.
For example, well, that's not a
I'm messing.
I shouldn't have said that when I did the humor one because the first episode was all about the day of, and they went into some detail that I didn't even know about in terms of the terrorists and what they did. They don't crack a joke. They don't crack one joke. They go, this is the serious one. And then they do 2 episodes and they go, okay, now we're doing the jokes. And they did the part 3 is about all the conspiracies about how it's tied to Satan. And then the second episode, they tied some humor into that one as well. It is a really fantastic podcast. Again, the research that they do in terms of the history and everything is fantastic.
Okay. Next up,
I'm going to talk about one that we were actually recommended by a fan. Thanks, Curtis. The Horror Honeys.
Texas, woo!
The Horror Honeys. This is a podcast.
He's down there roping steers and
rat bastard
and steers. And,
You even speak goodly.
I don't know.
You don't even speak goodly.
God.
And
Anyway,
and he's a good fan. He actually tweets us.
hey, it's a compliment that he ropes steers and eats
that's not
armadillos
actually.
raw.
And I
If you
read his
actually just put a
tweets.
rope and do this, that's you don't.
He actually sounds like he's intelligent.
I know.
Curtis, when you get to Kentucky, hang out. I'll buy you a drink. Bourbon.
Like I said, bring me up an armadillo and fry
Bring me
it up
up
on
to
the
Dillard's.
Dillard's.
Hey, give me an
Dillard's, if
armadillo.
you'll sponsor us, we'll let you.
I need a cheap pair of pants.
Well, not a
Dillard's only sells the highest quality items. Past Dillard's. Anyway, the Horror Honeys. Sorry it took us this long to get there. They do a horror podcast, obviously. But what's really nice about them is that it is completely female driven.
Yes.
Unlike, as we've said before, we're three white guys talking about pop culture, which sometimes involve horror. Oh my God! And this is
Only the best episodes involve horrors.
we're all horrors.
If I
would
say
all-
it, nobody laughs. It's
No, we
like
would-
old Joe. He says
would-
it, hilarity ensues.
No, I was just saying about
Or if Haley says it, it involves horrors.
we would also. I was just actually thinking about.
I was trying to encourage you to say the word so I could see her chuckle, but I don't think I'm the
Put Coke in front of it.
put Coke in front of me.
Coke and horrors.
Anyway,
or you can put the Coke on the
I was
wall.
actually thinking about us selling out to Dillard's and how quickly I would be a corporate whore if I had the chance, and that's why. Anyway,
They're called shills.
I would shield so quickly.
Don't they fight the... Forget it.
They do horror movies. They talk about horror movies. I listened to most recently the end of the year episode where they talk. They actually, and they have a lot of people that write for them, do the show with them, stuff like that. They have a structure, like they have the head and all that stuff. We have no structure, and it shows. But they were talking about, so they talked a lot about the different films they like. So of course, Get Out came up, a lot of other ones. But I like the fact they bring a lot of different perspective to it. They don't always agree, so in that way they're kind of like us. But it's a great podcast because it gets into horror in different ways. They also talk about comic books. They talk about some other stuff. But it's all linked back to horror. It's very detail oriented. But it's also a lot of, here's how this can be interpreted this way. And I think that's one of the things, because stereotypically, men get linked to horror, though we've done enough horror conventions that we know there's a ton of female fans.
And there are a ton. Go ahead. I'm just going to get started shouting out to all of the female horror fans that are on. I'm friends with.
No, I was about to
just
say,
because of the cons.
Well, and I was about to say, and that's it. I think that's the other side to it, and that's why their podcast I think is fascinating and is essential, more so than us probably. And by the way, keep listening to us, please. But
well, we don't just do horror though.
Well, no, I was about to say, but
and we don't just do horrors.
I'm never going to live that one down. But I think the other side of it is it's that they're breaking that down, and they're very public about being horror fans and things like that. They have they write as well, which is also. But I think that's the big thing, and like you said, we've done enough conventions. We moderate, and it's one of the things my wife even said. Separate from all this, before I started doing any of this, she went to a Star Trek convention with me.
Could you take a shower?
And she went to a Star Trek convention with me, and she said, "There's way more women here than men." And I'm like,
"You never took me to a Star Trek convention.
You never took me to the shower.
You've never taken me to a
I never took me.
I'm trying to get you taken, just like they did that girl in Taken. And there's no shower stall big enough for both of us. Anyway. But no, I think that's
they got the bride on a boat.
No. Oddly enough, you've been on my boat and you haven't.
I know. I don't get invited nice places or on your boat. But anyway, so if you like, if you like,
Haley has a Star Trek shirt on. She just took off her shirt to show us her undershirt. That is an actual factual statement.
But she didn't actually take it off. She hiked it up.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. She lifted it up to show us what was under her undershirt.
Not under her undershirt. Anyway, Horror Honeys, if you like horror films, it's definitely something that you should check out. Like I said, Curtis recommended it to us. Curtis, thank you for that. I've actually listened to a couple episodes. I got to have a conversation with one of them about Nick Cage. If you follow us on Twitter, especially if you follow me, you get to see that exchange. I am now jealous that she has a Nick Cage scale, and I don't. I've failed Nick Cage. You didn't look at that conversation online?
I'm so sorry. In between the 6-month-old, the middle management position, and the
nagging
and Bonehead. Let's go with Bonehead.
You have to keep our Twitter presence alive. He's obviously just going to let it slide.
I retweet half of the crap you do, so I don't have to tweet.
Retweet. Oh, yeah. Just phone it in. Anyway, Horror Honeys don't phone it in.
Is this episode over?
So check out the Horror Honeys. It is fascinating, and it's interesting, and it's current horror stuff, but also flashes back, and it does have the other pop culture references in it. Their commentary on Get Out was really interesting. The one thing that I still want more people to talk about is Get Out. Is there's not a lot of conversation about why do there, like, there's the racial side of it that a lot of people talked about. What about the old people side of it? Why is it when you get put in a new body you still have to work?
Yeah, I know.
There's a lot of elder commentary there. Anyway, but Horror Honeys, check it out. It's a really solid podcast. It's fascinating to listen to.
I'm going to do 2, and the reason being is because one of them is just so huge that I think everybody, it's kind of like, hey, go out and watch Letterman. It's Mark Maron. But I was a fan of Mark Maron kind of before this anyway.
As was I.
And yeah,
that was the first podcast I listened to.
Right. He was a comedian.
So you're being hipsters now. Oh, I was there before it was cool.
And I don't listen to all of his episodes. No. It's one of those where, forbid me from doing this, but I'm a lob of criticism, and I bet everyone else does it too. That little fast forward to that first 10, 20 minutes to get to the interview.
Oh, yeah. I actually listened to the whole thing.
Do you?
Yeah.
I do not.
I haven't. I will admit, I do like what
I'm a horrible human being, I know. And I love his show that was on IFC, Maron. It's a lot of fun. He's a great stand-up comedian, but he is a fantastic interviewer, and he is probably king of podcasts.
I would agree with that.
Right?
Yeah.
He used to work on the on when they actually tried to do a left-leaning free radio. What was it called?
Air America.
Air America, right? He worked there a couple of times, actually.
Yeah.
He and I don't listen to them all the time. I don't listen to any podcasts all the time. Once again, as Joe likes when I say, I do jump around. However,
get up, get down.
However, not too long before he died,
Mark Maron died.
No, before he died, he interviewed Jonathan Winters.
I need to probably listen to that.
And that was Jonathan Winters. If you know anything about the man, if you don't know who Jonathan Winters is, stop and go.
Yeah, go look him up.
Just a fascinating. But
without Jonathan Winters, there's no Robin Williams.
No, that's very much true. Robin Williams himself would say that. Yeah. Jonathan Winters.
Well, would have.
Well, no, he did say it. He just doesn't say it anymore.
He might say it if we get enough
electricity. Without Jonathan Winters, there'd be no Pauly Shore.
Maybe. That may be true,
So should we kill Jonathan Winters now?
Do I have to Terminator Jonathan Winters?
We've got to go Terminator Jonathan Winters?
Yeah.
Anyway, you get off topic. It's my turn.
No. Well, what I was going to say, though, is the reason I like that was Mark Maron got him to talk a lot about his own battles with depression and all that stuff.
Jonathan Winters is a fascinating guy whose parents didn't love him.
Yeah. And what does that? And why did he turn to comedy?
Justin Blevins, if he's by the way, used to call me the sad clown, Joe Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, Jonathan Winters' mother actually sold his stuff while he was off fighting in World War II.
Yeah.
And he said, "Those were mine. Why did you sell them?" Well, we didn't know if you'd come back, make it back.
Jeez.
Now, I want you to think about your mother saying that to you.
Yeah. A lot, and so anyway, that's
a brief version of that story, by the way.
I just wanted to throw that out because Mark Maron, that's what I do love about his podcast is he gets stories.
Yeah.
And he gets people that, this sounds horrible, people that some people have started to forget.
Yeah. Well, and if you don't know the Mark Maron podcast, it's called WTF. He interviews people out of his garage.
Yes.
So that's partially why I think these people open up to him about that way, because it's just you're going to his house, you're sitting in his garage in front of a microphone just talking. It's not in a studio setting.
And it's everybody from Jonathan Winters to John Carpenter to Joe Dante to Barack Obama. Yeah, Obama did his show.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you get a chance, look up some of the greatest hits of the people you're interested in. I think Mark Maron is a fascinating interviewer. He's a fascinating guy. He's probably second to only Stern.
Yeah.
Howard Stern is probably the best of all time of getting stuff out of people.
I would agree with that.
But that I wanted to mention that, and I know we're running out of time. The other one I want to do is the one I really do listen to is Mick Garris's, right?
Yeah.
And if you're into horror, once again, I hate that we went to this twice, but if you're into movies, if you're into horror, he does a great job of getting a lot of good stories out of people as well. There's a specific one, if you're into Tobe Hooper, he did a whole episode with Carolyn Williams and Bill Moseley. Though Bill Moseley played Chop Top and Caroline Williams was the hero lady, Stretch, in Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and about working with Tobe Hooper and what that was like, and talking about different issues. And if you know anything about the history of Tobe Hooper, there's a lot of things about did he or did he not direct Poltergeist? Was he or was he not on cocaine? He had a lot of issues. And Caroline Williams actually opens up and talks about how she thought he was on the spectrum. And it just was never diagnosed. And it, not over here, but right here. And it was just the way he communicated. And that was the best he could do. And people thought a lot of times he was on drugs. Mick Strawn told us a story about how I didn't know how we would get it done with the way he communicated.
Yeah.
Right? Because he directed an episode of Freddy's Nightmares that Mick Strawn worked on. Correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
I know he worked with him, yeah.
Yeah. So, he's just fascinating. I mean, he's had Wes Craven on over the years and different ones. So if you get to check that, it's Postmortem is the name of it.
Yeah.
Before we wrap up, some honorable mentions. We won't go into depth in them. That I'd like to mention. One, if you love animation, you love the people the actors who do the animation. Talking Tunes with Rob Paulson.
Yes. That
is a fascinating one. Comedy Bang Bang. If you just like comedy, if you like laughing, Comedy Bang Bang.
Nobody around here likes to laugh.
It's all improv.
Thanks for noticing.
It's all improv. Very fantastic. And then Hardcore History and The Dollop, which is another history podcast.
I've got one that I want to mention because it's comedy, but it's my type of comedy, which means sometimes it's really dry, but it's so funny to me. Is Judge John Hodgman. If you don't know who John Hodgman is, John Hodgman used to be on The Daily Show. Yeah. He used to be the PC in the PC versus Mac commercial with Justin Long. He wrote 3 books that I love. The Areas of My Expertise, More, and All. And those 3 books, he stopped writing those. You know why?
Because he wrote all?
No. Fake facts aren't funny anymore.
Oh my God, that is so true.
That was his. He tweeted because
that's so sad, funny.
My one brush with John Hodgman, and I admire him so much because he's very well informed. He's I argue one of the smartest cerebral comedians in that.
Right next to Pauly Shore.
I will punch you in the Goram throat.
What's funny about this, folks, is when Pauly Shore was Pauly Shore, I didn't like Pauly Shore then.
I like Biodome.
And then later I want to eat my words at Comic-Con when I'm the one doing his panel.
Yeah. I hate to admit it. I loved Biodome. And I still have a place in my heart for Biodome.
I've never seen Biodome.
Encino Man I saw in theaters.
I saw it.
So anyway, that was my one movie that year. That's true. Anyway, that's true.
Wow.
Charlie, tell us about your chocolate bar and get the hell on with your story.
John Hodgman does a podcast called Judge John Hodgman. And it's very, very dry humor sometimes. But what he actually does is you can audition, quote unquote, argue to be on the show. And he picks topics, but it's stuff like, my husband doesn't do the dishes. We made a deal that if I cook, he'll do the dishes. He doesn't do the dishes. And he serves as the judge for that. And as he always says, or as he sometimes says,
Pauly Shore is amazing.
This show provides fake internet justice. But he's done 2 episodes that they did record. You can watch them on YouTube. I do recommend them. They are brown gravy versus white gravy.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds racist.
And then
white gravy.
Of course you would say that.
Oh my God.
Left off some of your podcasts too to listen to.
When should seasonal...
Alt-right, Chad.
Nothing's right about Chad. When should seasonal Christmas music be played is another one they did.
February 10th.
Right after Thanksgiving. I will give them right after Thanksgiving, but this horse shit about November the 1st or October 31st.
Watch the episode and see if you agree with his ruling.
And here's the other thing that pisses me off about that. They end it on the 26th of December. If they started in the 1st of November, why can't they go to the 1st of January?
I don't know. I don't make those
Why?
decisions. Call up iHeartRadio.
Call up Mixmas and tell them to...
Call up iHeartRadio.
I almost said something else. I'll keep it...
How the hell can I hear Feliz Navidad in July on the radio? That's what I want.
You can, really.
Anyway,
you have an iPad.
Jesse...
I have a what?
An iPad. That's how the British call it. They wrap theirs in aluminium and they're Jaguars.
Zebras.
As they look at the zebras.
You awful...
Go ahead! Jesse Thorne is the bailiff. Inject some humor. Does some
all I heard was
stuff.
Bella Thorne.
I bet you did.
There's two people out there going, Bella Thorne.
Anyway, there's 304 episodes of this out now. The new season has started. That will start to be released soon. Like I said, only 2 episodes have been recorded, but he tours with it live as well, and you can go see these live. But obviously, listen to the podcast.
Wouldn't it be great if Bonehead could tour live? We'd have to get a little more energy because I've yawned like 5 times in the last 10 minutes.
Is it because I'm not entertaining you?
I mean,
It's
I don't know
all
that we're
about you.
entertaining anybody.
When we wrap up, can we watch Jury Duty and eat some banana butt?
You can eat the crap out of my banana butt.
Anyway, so
you can eat the nuts out of my banana butt.
I'm going to stop them, and then so my 3 were the Indie Cast, Horror Honeys, and Judge John Hodgman. They're 3 very different ones, but I'm entertained by all 3
And another
of them.
person, Annie
Oakley, get your gun.
She does a collector's show. I will tweet that out later on in Facebook and connect her to her this too.
When we post this,
and she's been a supporter of Bonehead and has reposted our, and I appreciate that.
Oh yes, Annie the She Nerd.
Yeah, Annie She Nerd. Yeah, She Nerd, and she does a YouTube show. She goes through toys and different things and different games. She's a huge wrestling fan on top of horror and movies. And
so I guess that one of the reasons we want to do this episode is, again, you'll notice we didn't actually pick podcasts that were overly similar to one another.
We're all listening to different things. Yeah, Chad's always much more about history. You're always much more about literature, and I'm always an asshole.
But I think the end result
She's shaking her head, by the way.
That was a perfect description. All 3 of you.
As we get ready to wrap up, Haley, do you listen to any podcasts?
No, well, her podcast would be I'm a Dick.
Is it you are? I mean, if she has an entire podcast dedicated to how much of one you are.
There's silence right now.
Ours.
Ours? Oh.
And Dream Warrior Review.
Dream Warrior Review?
Yes.
Oh, she's sucking up.
Well, in all fairness, I mean, but like I said, no, that I should have said that too, because if Joe didn't mention I was going to Dream Warrior Review, like I said, it's Mick, but if you're not entertained by Mick, I don't know what will entertain you.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean,
Mick Straw, not Mick Garris. I mean, I like you, Mick Garris, but once again, screw you. You wouldn't do the show. However, I still do listen to your
And please do our show. We love you.
Yeah.
Joe loves you. He just has that bad wife response.
I know. He's just busy. He's actually working.
And his podcast is moving to Bloomhouse now, right?
Bloomhouse, whatever. Yeah. He's moving up from podcast 1. So Bloomhouse, if you're looking for another one, they have the premier horror one that I don't listen to. Rebecca McKendry, who's a friend of mine on Facebook, teaches film at UCLA or USC. It's called Shockwaves.
Yeah, I was going to say, and that's one that I've listened to.
That's the.
But I don't listen
think
to
that
religiously.
it's the industry standard of it, but it's not one that I. Nothing against them.
Shockwaves, also a movie that's not very good.
Yeah, nothing against Shockwaves or those.
He's also
people
one of the cooler Transformers.
But no.
Anyway, anything else, guys? Are we good to wrap this up?
If there's podcasts that you think we should listen to, I'll be honest. Like I said, I'm just now getting into it. Until we
tweet James and he'll let us know.
Or more importantly, if you like our podcast, subscribe to us on iTunes, YouTube, SoundCloud. Leave comments, rate us.
Or if you have a podcast and you would like to do a crossover with us. If you would like to do a crossover with us.
We did do a and we've already done a crossover with the Dream Warrior Review.
Yeah, we did a crossover with Dream Warrior Review. We would be interested in talking to you. You could even throw out a topic and we'll just ad-lib on it. We're willing to do that. So, again, we admire our fellow podcast people. Thank you all.
And look forward to, in the next few months, of T-shirts, the ability to buy T-shirts, hats, and some glasses, and a few other things. Thank you so much. Anything else? Are we out?
Nope, I'm done.
All right. Thank you so much. That was our podcast about podcasts.
It's so meta.
It is meta. Toodles.
I'm so metaphysical.
All right, I'm bringing it back. I'm bringing sexy back.
And you're on this camera.
Failed.
Are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
You.
Can you put your feet down for just a second? Sorry.
Yeah, put your feet down, you insensitive bastard.
Can I put mine up?
No.
Oh, let's do a leg pretzel. You put my
No,
put mine
help
and
me.
then
You
put
touch
yours.
me, I'll kill you.